How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It is a fantastic Friday night. Can't get better than this. I mean, weather's nice. The weather's nice. Just got done with sixth grade boys basketball practice. That's always a blast. It's always a blast. You get to work with the young kids. They irritate you a little bit. You make them run. It's the fun of it, right? It's the fun of coaching basketball at the end of the day. So lots to get into today. Badgers, they've been back in action. Badgers men's basketball. I want to talk about that a little bit today. We got to get into the Bucks. Badgers and Packers both on a bye, but I want to talk a little Badgers. I want to talk a little Packers because, well, there's a lot of things going into the bye week for both of them that need to be cleaned up here. I mean, the Badgers on the edge of bowl eligibility, but a lot of tough tests ahead of them here, so we'll see if they can get into it there. And the Packers, they have their own problems heading into the bye week, so I want to get into all of them today here on the show. So no Aaron tonight. I know, no Aaron tonight, no Kyle tonight, just me tonight here. Those guys both, I mean, Aaron's out and about. He's got some stuff to do. He's with work and everything, and Kyle's under the weather. So just me tonight here. Always, I mean, you can chat with me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you're at right now. You can tune into the show there. You can tweet at me, whatever you want. You can do it out there on those comments in. Otherwise, the text line. You can go to that text line there. You can text the show here and let us know what you're thinking, thoughts, anything like that, anything you like to talk about. I'd love to get into it here on the show there. So right away, I want to look at the Badgers men's basketball because we saw, I mean, 2 games now against, well, Montana State's not a bad team. A lot of people after that game against Montana State where, Montana State's not good. They beat a subpar. Montana State's not a bad program. That team can knock down shots. That is a very good shooting team. They lack size, right? They lack size, but that is a pretty good shooting team. And I got a good feeling that when we get to March and we're talking about March Madness brackets, we're going to be talking about Montana State. I think they will be a team in that field. And I mean, when March comes around, teams that can shoot, they generally do well when it comes to tournament play. So we'll see what Montana State can do in the tournament there. I liked what I saw out of them. So Badgers 2 games now, Holy Cross and Montana State. We saw some good in both games, and we also saw some bad, right? There's got to be both in there. They have a lot of kinks they got to work out yet, right? A lot of kinks with this Badgers team they got to work out. Number one, I mean, you look at this team right now and finishing on the inside, right? It's a big thing that we talk about, it seems like every single year with this Badger team, and it isn't going away. It hasn't gone away. The aggressiveness, the ability to score on the inside, they lack that ability right now, right? John Tonje, he's done a very good job getting downhill, right? I thought, guard – his usage of John Tonje kind of confused me at times, right? He seems to go with these lineups late in games where Tonje isn't a part of it. And Tonje is a big part of that offense, right? AJ Storr was a different kind of player, right? He had the ability to get to the rim. He has the ability to finish when he gets to the rim. And he's that 3-level scorer, right? He can finish at all 3 levels. And John Tonje brings that to this Badger team. He brings that ability to score at all 3 levels. What John Tonje also brings to this team is that ability to get to the free throw line, right? And I loved what I saw out of him in these first couple games there, that ability to get to the free throw line. And when they got there, the Badgers have been good at the free throw line over the first couple games here. But I'm looking at that ability to finish when they get in there, whether it's Steven Crowell, whether it's Nolan Winter. I mean, you had McGee was finishing on the inside there. I mean, McGee looked good, right? McGee has been a spark plug off that bench for the Badgers in these first couple games. But I'm looking at those guys in Crowell, and I'm seeing Nolan Winter. And Nolan Winter had a good first game out, but this last game here, their ability to finish on the inside is something that has concerned me right off the bat here. So that's one of my big concerns. Something that they got to clean up is that ability because, we come into that Holy Cross game, and I mean, I love a team that can jack up the 3 and they could can a couple threes here and there. Like, that's fantastic. I love that. I love the ability to be able to spread the floor out. But this Wisconsin team, if they want to be successful on the season, if they want to go out there and they want to win some big games, right? You got to have the ability to score on all 3 levels. You cannot just rely on the 3 ball because as we saw with this Badger team, yes, they have the ability to shoot the 3. Now, how many shots is it going to take to knock down 11, right? How many shots is that going to take? Because you look at them in that Holy Cross game, And I was just pulling up the team stats there, but they were 11 for 31 from downtown. Not a bad percentage, but you look at them overall, they're 29 for 59 on the game there. They cleaned it up in that second half, towards the end of the first half, going in that second half. But you saw the difference in that first game from the Badgers when they went away. They went away from the inside for a while there. And it surprised me, right? Because we went into the preview show. We talked about this Holy Cross team. And the big thing that we noticed when Kyle and I were talking about it was the lack of size that Holy Cross had. So we're like, the Badgers, they have to establish the inside. They have to establish down low in that post first and then work your way back outside. They didn't do that. The first thing they did was came out and they started firing up threes left and right, like that was what was going to get them the win, right? And it wasn't. It was so far from it. And then all of a sudden, Carter Gilmore comes in there and he breaks the lid off the basket going to the rim. And I didn't think I'd ever say Carter Gilmore was going to be the spark plug, but I honestly, I don't think that guy deserves all the hate that he gets, right? He gets a lot of hate. Carter Gilmore gets a lot of hate. And I've caught myself yelling at Carter Gilmore a couple times here and there. But Carter Gilmore is a spark plug off the bench. And, he's a guy who's going to give it, right? He's not the most talented dude in the world. He'll admit that to you. He's not the most talented dude in the world. He's not going to be able to give you 20 points a night. He's not going to do that for you. But what he's going to do is he's going to go get it, right? He's going to be aggressive, and that's how he's going to play the game. So, to have a guy like that who can come off the bench and do that little thing for you, like break the lid off the basket when it seems like all hope is lost and you're down big early to Holy Cross at home opening night. It took it, right? I'll take it any day of the week, right? You take it, I guess, right? You take it, I guess. So I like that out of the Badgers, that ability the ability to shoot the three, but they have to be timely with it here. And they have to find ways to score on all three levels, which I think they did in both games, but it took them a while to get going there. And, right in the comments there, Patrick Meyer there. He says Wisconsin has to build its offense from the inside out. 100%. I am 100% in agreement with you on that one. Is that when this Badger team decides, hey, we're going to establish the perimeter first. We're not even going to look at Steven Crowell in the post there. I know, it irritates me with Crowell because he's like Charmin Ultra Soft down there, right? That fantastic toilet paper, right? Great commercials with the Bears in there. It seems like, they're always using the can. But, fantastic commercial there with Charmin. But that's how Steven Crowell seems to play at times, is he's soft in that post. He doesn't want to go and get it. And I want him to be aggressive. I want to be aggressive, no doubt. But, everybody says it. Steven Crowell's a great passer. He's a great passer. He is a good passer. Get him the basketball. Let him facilitate. Let him work inside out. Right now, we're working with a lineup without a true point guard in it. And, that has its bonuses, and it also has its, problems. Late in the game against Montana State, Kamari McGee was out there. I like that lineup. Honestly, I like the lineup. If you're going to go like a small ball kind of lineup, I like the lineup of McGee, and you had Tonje in there, and you had Blackwell, and you had Klesmit, and then you had Steven Crowell in there. If you're going to go with a small ball lineup, I like that lineup late in the games there. A scoring lineup, a lineup that can go and get it. Sometimes having Nolan Winter and Steven Crowell out there at the same time, it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you a little bit. So, defensively, that does help there. So, I'm looking at these first two games here. And I love, like I said, what I'm seeing at Tonje, his ability to score at all three levels there. You have to have a guy in there. But my worry is that we're talking about the rest of this offense here with Crowell, and we're talking about Nolan Winter. You can't have an offense where it's like with AJ Storr again. If AJ Storr is cold, the offense is just gone, right? That's where we ran into a lot of problems last year. When the offense, when you had a guy like AJ Storr, when he wasn't cooking, nobody else was cooking, right? There's no assistant chefs in there. We got to have assistant chefs in there who, when your main guy, he's not feeling it that night, you can find ways. You can find ways to score the basketball there. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at out of there. Caden, friend of the show there, he says, do you think Greg Gard's coaching job is on the hot seat this year? I thought it was on the hot seat last season, to be honest with you. I went on kind of a tangent after I believe it was the Nebraska game last season there, and Wisconsin just looked out of sorts, right? They just looked out of sorts. And, Greg Gard is he's a good X's and O's guy. I think he understands the game of basketball. I really do think he does. Sometimes that can get you into trouble, though. And sometimes maybe, Greg Gard overthinks situations. I don't agree with some of his rotations at times, the way he utilizes guys. I want to say yes. I want to say yes. You know, the Greg Gard, fire Greg Gard. There's a crowd out there for that, right? There's a crowd for the fire Greg Gard. There's a bunch of them out there. And I mean, there is a crowd for it. And those guys, yeah, they're probably fired up right now at that comment. I don't, it would take a catastrophe of a season for McIntosh to fire Greg Gard. Right? I think it would take a catastrophe of a season. The thing with Greg Gard that saves him every year is that sometimes I think that people just they're okay with, you know, the Badgers make the tournament and they exit the first round because, you know, this or that or whatever it is, right? And, you know, we can blame players all day long and we keep blaming players and blaming players. And I think it comes to a point where you have to really sit down and you have to look at this team and say, okay, year by year, if we're building a program like Wisconsin and we have these guys in here like Steven Crowell, or we have a Nolan Winter, or even, you know, you talk about the new guys with Daniel Freitag and some of these other guys, you're looking at and you're saying, okay, the progression year by year. That's the thing that I dislike about Greg Gard is that, to me, and this is my opinion on it, I don't believe that guys have gotten truthfully better under Greg Gard. And that has always been my biggest knock on him is I think guys come in and they have like they're at their ceiling already, it seems like at times. And you know, I don't want to say that all these guys that have currently in this program are at their ceilings, right? I think Nolan Winter can be a better, or I think he's only at the outside looking in of what he could possibly be. And I think Freitag could be fantastic. But I mean, it comes down to development for me. And, you know, we can talk about, oh, he's been to Big Ten Coach of the Year and he's been to the tournament. That's all fine and dandy. That's great. But what I want to see is that when these guys walk in year one and when they leave in year four, did they get better? Right. And, you know, prime example, you talk about guys like Tyler Wall, right? Tyler Wall came into Wisconsin. He got better in the post. I won't deny he got better in the post, but he became nothing more than he was a one-trick pony the whole time. The whole time he was in Madison, he was a one-trick pony. So I don't think Greg Gard's job is going to be on the hot seat unless if it's a catastrophe of a season, which we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on that one. You know, this Badger team right now, they have App State coming up next, and then they're going to have that game against Arizona, right? And those are going to be, you know, App State, you got to have that one. I mean, App State coming into that game, Appalachian State is not a great basketball program, but I mean, there's always that possibility, you know, teams find ways to beat, you know, in non-conference play. There always seems to be that one team that falls to a lesser opponent. You got to avoid that here because you do have Arizona on the backside of that there. I mean, you're looking at that Arizona game as, you know, your measuring stick, right? Where is this Badger program at this very moment, right? And, you know, it's early in the season, so you can't completely just say one way or another. But a game like that early on is going to give you your kind of where we're at. Where are we at right now? What do we have to work on, right? And you've played teams like Montana State and that Holy Cross game. I mean, you went down big. That was a big deficit that you were in that Holy Cross game. And if you're in a game like that against Arizona or Marquette or some of these other teams, you're not coming back like the Badgers did. You might, like, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but those teams know how to put away a knockout punch. Holy Cross was not that great of a program to be able to put out that knockout punch. So that's something that, I mean, we're going to see here coming up pretty soon is the direction of this program too. And that's something that I think is going to be a lot on Greg Gard here. A lot on Greg Gard to see is what are his adjustments when he gets into those big games? How does he react in big games? And how does he prepare his team for those big games? And what does the offense look like, right? We're talking about the lack of usage on the inside. Okay, so what does that offense look like when he gets those big games? Those are some of the things that I'm keeping an eye on there. But as of right now, Badgers 2-0. They're going to be taking on subpar. I mean, I'm not going to say great Appalachian State team, but a team that you got to keep an eye on, right? You don't want to have App State come into the Kohl Center and knock you off your feet there before you have to take on number 10 Arizona there coming up next week. So a lot of good things coming for the Badgers here moving forward. But I want to, before we get into Badger football, because I want to talk some Badger football today, but before we get into that Badger football, we do have a message here from Hunter, our hockey guy. I want to get to him real quick, and then we're going to talk some Badger football here on the back side of this. So we'll see you back here in a minute.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another Wisconsin Badger hockey weekend recap. Let's get started with the women's. It was an impressive series against number 8 St. Cloud State on Friday evening. The Badgers dominated with a 6-0 victory. Lila Edwards and Cassie Hall both found the back of the net twice, showcasing their offensive prowess. The momentum carried Saturday night as the Badgers secured a 4-0 win over the Huskies. Ava McNaught was stellar in goal, earning her 4th straight shutout for the Badgers. 4 different Badgers scored that night, extending their win streak to 12 games. This week, the team is on bye. Switching to the men's. It was a mixed but ultimately successful weekend against number 20 Notre Dame. On Friday night, the Badgers fell short in a hard-fought overtime battle, losing 2-3. However, they bounced back Saturday with a 2-1 victory. Offensive showed depth from Simon Tassi and Owen Lindmark, who scored twice over the weekend as well, contributing goals. That was the first time all season that the Badgers have scored outside of their first line, which is huge. You have to have offensive depth to win. But they've been looking for it all year. And this was also their first Big Ten weekend victory all season. And this next weekend, they play Border Battle.
Great stuff from Hunter there. Badger hockey, women's team playing well right now. The men's team slowly starting to figure it out. Hopefully some good stuff moving forward there for the Badgers. You got to love it on there. But Badger football, it's a bye week here. But this is, I believe, a very important bye week for the Wisconsin Badgers because this is kind of a moment of reckoning, right? You got to figure it out. You You have Oregon coming up next, and if that's a ball game, I'm going to be very surprised. Like if the Badgers keep it, I think the line was like over 20. So if they keep it within 20, it's a win, right? We take it as a win there. But I saw this was after the Iowa game, and I saw a tweet, and it's from Scott Dauterman. I don't know exactly that guy's name there, but I saw the tweet and it stood out to me, so I wanted to read the tweet here. He said, after that Iowa loss, he said, Wisconsin is learning a painful lesson about forfeiting your identity. All the Badgers needed those years was a quarterback to go to the next level. Awesome O-line, running backs, decent wide receivers, and an elite defense. Had a great pass rush, perfect runs, and just a quarterback, not a whole-scale change. And, I thought about that because we talk week after week. This Badger team's trying to find an identity, and they're trying, they're going through this big change, and we should give Luke Fickell the benefit of the doubt because he's going through this big change, right? He's going through this big change. We got to keep it, we got to keep worrying about it. We lost an identity, right? Our identity, you look at the past Badger teams, right? Defensively, offensively, exactly like he said, great offensive lines, great running backs, right? You could go through the laundry list of running backs that we've had. I'm not going to say we had great wide receivers. We did not have great wide receivers. You had, Jazz Peavy out there at times. You had, your cast of characters out there. But Danny Davis, right? Nick Toon. You had some good enough wide receivers. You had a good tight ends, good defense, good defensive coordinator, and Jim Leonard there for a while. It seemed like the identity was there. Everybody knew what you wanted to do, but you did it better, right? That Iowa loss, what they did to us, what Wisconsin used to do to other teams, right? So we do this whole scale change, right? We're like, let's blow it up. Let's just get rid of everything. Let's lose our identity. Let's bring in Phil Longo, completely change the entirety of the playbook. Let's change the defense. Let's see you later, Jim Leonard there. Let's bring in Tressel. Let's bring in Luke Fickell for all this boatload of money here. And let's do a whole scale flip to the program. How is that working, right? And we're supposed to be this quarterback factory. We're going to get all these quarterbacks into a room. We're going to have, 5 guys in our quarterback room, and every single one of them is just going to be great. They're going to be great. Where the heck has that been? Where is any of that at this point, right? I don't even know, truthfully, at times what we're running on offense, right? It's the most vanilla, plain Jane offense. When I think of an air raid, I'm like, this is going to be some messed up, confusing, fancy routes. We're going to get some crazy stuff going on in the field. It's going to look good, right? It's going to look good. This doesn't look good. right? I mean, I feel bad for Tyree Walker because you run this inside zone run play, right, where he lines up on the right side of Braden Locke back there, and he runs to the left, and the defensive line knows he's coming before he even gets there, right? And he line him up on the left, does the same thing, right? That works against subpar opponents. Purdue, it works. Rutgers, it works, right? Northwestern, it works. When you get against good teams, Penn State, USC, Alabama, this last game out here against Iowa with a good defense, right? It ain't going to work, right? You got to be able to come out of a fold. Phil Longo's playbook sucks. I don't know if he's got one page, right? Maybe if he just has one page of plays and he just works through them. I have no idea. But I dislike that playbook a lot. I dislike I don't even understand the scheme that we're trying to draw up. Defensively, I don't even understand what Tressel's doing at times. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I listen to all these other shows out there. And, you know, they sit there and they say, well, it's the lack of talent, right? Okay. The Badgers don't have a boatload of talent. They don't. They don't have a boatload of talent on this team. I'm not going to lie to you. They don't have a boatload of talent. But why is that the reason why we're running a nickel defense against a team in Iowa who we know for a fact is going to run it straight up the middle? Why is that? Why it just doesn't it doesn't compute, right? The numbers are there, but it's not computing. It doesn't make sense. So I go through I hear this, I listen to this, and I listen to these other guys, and they try and, you know, defend the scheming, and they try and defend the play calling, and they try to blame it on the players and blame it on this. Yeah, I will agree. Our defensive line sucks, right? I will agree with that. I 110% agree. There is not a lot of talent on that defensive line. There is not a lot of talent right now. The linebacker core, they seem subpar, right? We went through years of Leo Chanel and TJ Edwards and TJ Watt, and you had this, Borland, right? You had this cast of characters, Sanborn, right? You had this dynamite linebacker core. You had a decent enough defensive line, right? And you had a pretty good secondary behind him there, some pretty good safeties with Dakota Dixon back there and, other guys that have played in that safety position. Now we look at him out there. We got Hunter Wohler, who's a shell of himself because I don't think he wants to play for this team anymore because this is a mess, right? We have Hallman out there, who's a pretty darn good cornerback. But outside of that, Forqueen has struggled, right? They've had struggles across. We have a couple other guys out there who are young yet. They're still developing. Allegro came into this last game and was fantastic in the linebacker spot. But Heem Thomas, I don't think he's played up to it. Poos was supposed to be this great transfer ad, hasn't added up yet. We do lose Thompson Jr. Before the season, so that didn't help the defensive line. Elijah Hills has made some plays for the Badgers, but you look at this defense, and yes, there's a lack of talent, but there's a lack of scheming too. There's a lack of the ability to understand. Like I said, you're running a nickel defense against an Iowa team who wants to run the football. Explain that one to me. And how are you coming out in a game against Iowa? I get it. It's on the road, and it's tough to win in Kinnick. I agree. It is tough to win down there. But why do you come out in some of these games and you look like the most unmotivated team that has ever played football? Like, this Badger team looked unmotivated when they went out against Iowa. That looked terrible. You got manhandled in the trenches on both sides of the field all game long. And there was nothing. No saving grace, nothing in between there, right? Braden Locke, I don't even understand, right? We go through all season long, going into the season. I heard, well, Braden Locke and Van Dyke, they're hand in hand. They're right next to each other. How bad was Van Dyke if this is the guy that was hand in hand with him in the preseason? How bad was Van Dyke looking? Because Braden Locke may understand the playbook. He might understand it. We might understand it better than anybody, right? But it's not showing. How many games do we have to go through a back-breaking interception before we just say, I don't know, screw it. Let's throw the freshman out there. Let's just say the heck with it at this point. Because what's it going to hurt? What's it honestly going to hurt at this point? It's just, right now, it looks like a dysfunctional bunch out there on the football field, and nobody to head them up. Yeah, Luke Fickell might be a good coach. He might be. I'm not firing Luke Fickell. But what I'm saying is I watch Longo. I see these offenses for the Badgers right now. I see this offense, and I see the defense. And if Luke Fickell isn't a problem, and, I'm not going to say he's a problem, then I'm going to say that the Badgers need to look at their coordinators, and they need to say, hey, you guys are coaching for your jobs at this point. Plain and simple. you're coaching for your jobs. Because what I'm seeing right now on both sides of the ball for the Badgers is depressing. That was embarrassing. I'm not even on the team. I'm not even on the team. And watching that Iowa game was depressing, embarrassing. That wasn't Wisconsin football. We got beat by Wisconsin football, what Wisconsin football used to be, right? We were just going to run the ball 45 times. We were just going to keep running it down your throat until you got sick of it. And then you would load the box. What did the Badgers not do? They didn't even load the box. I don't get it. You go into a game where all Iowa did, RPO, and then run up the middle. Just simple things. Nothing crazy. There's nothing crazy about that game. Nothing crazy. And yet, they made you look like you were an inept team. Like you didn't even belong on the same football field as them. That Iowa game was like we said it the other day. You go into seasons and you have certain games that you circle that you're like, these are our measuring sticks. These are our games where we circle them and we're like, this is the ones that we have to look good in. These are the ones where we are going to see where we're at as a program. And Iowa is one of them, right? Iowa is one of those teams that when you can go to Iowa and you can win that game, that tells you something about your program. That tells you that you're heading in the right direction. We went through games against Rutgers, Purdue, Northwestern, and I mean, pretty good wins, right? I mean, they blew out Purdue, they blew out Rutgers, they looked good against Northwestern, got that bug off the back there, the monkey off the back, telling them they couldn't win down there, and then they play Penn State. And I mean, backbreaking interception, kind of lost that game for them. So you come off of that loss and you travel to Iowa. Now, not going to be an easy game. Don't get me wrong. Not saying that's going to be an easy game, but you travel down to Iowa and you get knocked out. First half, you're done. You're out of it. It fell apart. Do you almost, I don't like coming off that Penn State game. What was the message? What was the message in the locker room? What did you tell these guys? What did you tell them to say like, hey, we played a competitive game against a very good team in Penn State. Now we're going to go play Iowa. This is where we prove it, right? We prove it in this game. They didn't prove anything to me. They didn't prove anything to anybody. All they did was get their teeth knocked in on national television, and now they have a game against Oregon where they're most likely going to get their teeth knocked in on national television. So you're going to have 2 straight games where you get your teeth knocked in, 3 straight games on national television, one where you had a pretty good game against Penn State there. You had a pretty good game against Penn State. You had a butt kicking against Iowa, and now you're going to go play Oregon on national television, and well, the betting line ain't doing you any favors right now. So, I mean, this Badger program right now, that like I just read that quote off to you from Scott Dauchterman there. I mean, this Badger program, you could tell me that there was a lot more to fix than what we thought. And Paul Chryst left the program in shambles and this and that and everything in between. You can tell me everything about it, right? But you're in year 2. I haven't seen anything that has shown me, like, I get it, right? If it's going to take a couple years, it's going to take a couple years. But in those couple years, I want to see this team start to look like something, right? Look like something that you're building towards. You can have a terrible team, but the scheme can look good. You can have a terrible team, but the play calling can still, help out that terrible team. Right now, I don't trust Longo, I don't trust Tressel, and I don't know about Fickell, because you have this team who looks like they're the most unmotivated sons of guns in the room, and it just hurts to watch. This football team just hurts to watch. So this Oregon game, yeah, you're probably going to get your teeth knocked in, but you have a game coming up then against Nebraska, and you have one last one against Minnesota. You have 2 games then to not only get bowl eligible, right? Because you're talking about a team who 22 years, they have made a bowl game straight. You lose that this season here. I mean, yeah, you're not firing Luke Fickell, but next season then that's gotta be the season where you're looking at this Badger team under a microscope and saying, hey, we got to figure something out now. We got to figure something out this season here, because if we don't, I mean, what do you do? The second Luke Fickell gets fired, McIntosh gets fired, right? So McIntosh ain't firing Fickell, right? I mean, we sit here and we're like, McIntosh, you should go out and fire Fickell. He can't, right? His hands are tied. He got rid of Paul Chryst. He didn't hire in Jim Leonard, and he brought in this big money guy in Luke Fickell to change this program, to take it to the next level, right? When, like Doctorman said there, and I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name. But like he said, all they needed to do was get a quarterback into the room, and they would have found ways to win some of these big games, and heck, would have found their way into a 12-team playoff with the teams that they were throwing out there. So, I mean, maybe this year isn't the one where we're supposed to freak out, but when then? Somebody's got to explain to me when, because this Badger team right now, they're in shambles. They're in shambles. And, I mean, they do have, some good recruits coming in, but what's a good recruit if you can't find a way to coach them, right? What's a good recruit if your team just quits on you? Because when I see Hunter Wohler out there, he looks lost. He looks like he's done. He looks like he's done out there. You just have a team that looks like they're done. You have a quarterback who can't keep the ball away from the opposing team. This is just a struggling football team. This is a struggling football team all the way around. And you have a 4-star recruit right now, Carter Smith. He's going to be in town there for that game against Oregon. So you have a pretty good recruit coming to town against Oregon there. What does a recruit think when they come to town and they see, if you come out and it doesn't look bad, right? It doesn't look bad. And you give that feeling like, hey, we're a quarterback away, right? We're a quarterback away from taking to the next level. That makes a quarterback who is a highly touted recruit kind of feel better about the situation. But when you have a guy come to Camp Randall and he watches a defense and he watches an offensive line get manhandled, he watches a defensive line get manhandled, and he watches Oregon just have their way with you, as a recruit, that kind of changes your mind, right? Because if you look at teams like, Michigan right now, they still have a good defense, right? Now, he did decommit from Michigan, so I'm not saying he's going to go to Michigan, but Penn State's also in on Carter Smith. So when he sees a program like Penn State, now, today's day and age, it's going to come down to money. So how much money can we pony up for Carter Smith? That's going to be another thing. So, you're watching a Badgers team who is just all around struggling. And I was going to go through the stats today, but I don't feel like going through the stats, the team stats and conference play, because you look at them in there, they're 13th across the board in most statistical categories, offensively, defensively, some worse, some better, right? Their sack percentage, they have 14 sacks on the season right now. Indiana has 31. Indiana's going under a coaching change right now. They had a coaching change. Look at where Indiana's at compared to Wisconsin. That's a successful coaching change right there. Brought some transfers in, got it done. You look at this team right now, it's ugly. It's ugly right now. So this Badger team, you have a bye week now. There has to be some major changes coming out of the bye week. I don't know if it's quarterback change. I'm not going to say it's a quarterback change. Now, would I change quarterbacks? Yes, 100%. You want to know why? Because to heck with the red shirt. Everybody comes to me, they're like, well, you don't want to waste his red shirt on a lost season. Okay, I don't care. I want to see what I have in Mabry right now. If he comes out there and he doesn't play, extremely well, like he's not out there looking like Jalen Milroe or, Dylan Gabriel or any of these guys, right? I don't need him to walk out there and be, that dude right away. But what I want to see is if they have something in Mabry. I want to see if they have something, because I hate this revolving door of quarterbacks we keep going through every single season, right? Mordecai comes in, and then you have Tyler Van Dyke come in. I'm sick of the revolving door. I just want to see Wisconsin get a recruit in, a recruit that they can build around, a recruit that builds up through this system. Because we're talking about Wisconsin, we're talking about Phil Longo, and we're saying how he's this great, quarterback guru, right? He had Sam Howell. He had Drake May out there, I believe, in North Carolina. He's got he's got this ability to just build me up some quarterbacks. Build me up a quarterback right now. Build me up a quarterback here. Show me something. So that's why if I'm at this point, you look at the Oregon game, it's like, okay, you're going to throw him to the Wolves. You don't want his first start to be against Oregon. He's just going to lose. What's Braden Locke going to do against Oregon? What's he going to do against Oregon that's going to be worse than Mabry, right? So at this point, I would be okay if we saw a guy like Mabry get the start there. I'd be okay with it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with the Wisconsin Badgers. Like I said, a lot has to be figured out here in the coming weeks, or this week here before we get to Oregon. And then hopefully they put together a decent enough performance. And then we move on to some winnable games there against Nebraska and Minnesota late in the year there. Hopefully become bowl eligible and get me something good there. So let's look into the weekend slate here of college football. We got some good games coming up in college football. I want to talk about them real quick. First good game, not a good game. Purdue, Ohio State. I can't believe that opening line's opening up at 38, right? Ohio State's favored by 38 in that game against Purdue there. I mean, it could be worse, I guess. I'm sitting here, I'm complaining about Wisconsin right now. It could be worse. I could be Purdue, right? I could be Purdue. So Purdue is looking like they're in for an ugly one. Let's see here. Texas is favored they're going to be playing Florida there. They're favored by 21.5 right now against Florida. That's an interesting stat line. Florida, I just figured they'd give them a little bit more. They're 21.5. They have a lot of faith in that Texas team there. Indiana against Michigan. I at this point in the season, I just want to see Indiana go undefeated. I really do. I want to see Indiana go undefeated. I want them to beat Ohio State, and I want to see Indiana in that Big Ten championship game. That's just where I'm at right now. That would be a great story. That'd be a great story there. So that's something I want to see. We have Georgia and Ole Miss. That's going to be a good one. I got a feeling that's going to be a good one. Jackson Dart has played well for Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is on the verge. They're sitting with 2 losses, right? 7-2. They're on the verge of missing the college football playoff. They are very motivated heading into that game. It's in Oxford, too. I don't know. I mean, they're giving Georgia 2.5 right now. I could see Ole Miss winning that game. I really could. I could see Ole Miss winning that game. And, I mean, Georgia's played well this season. I just don't trust Carson Beck. I really don't trust Carson Beck on that Georgia team. He struggled. He's thrown a couple picks here and there. Georgia's kind of made up for it on the back end of that. But I don't know. I kind of like Ole Miss in that game. I'm going to take Ole Miss to pull off the upset win there against Georgia there. It's in Oxford, so I like the upset there. Outside of that, Army trying to move a 9-0. That's okay, guys. I said I want to see Indiana go undefeated. I would want to see Army go undefeated because if we get to a college football playoff and Army's in the college football playoff, that'd be awesome. That would be awesome. I don't know who would complain. I really don't. Probably Clemson fans if Dabo Swinney misses the college football playoff. They would complain. Outside of that, who cares? I want to see a team like Army get in there on the first season, just blow it open. That'd be awesome. Outside of that, let's see if we have any other big games on the docket. Alabama, LSU, that's going to be a massive game. Both teams with 2 losses. Both teams on the cusp of missing the college football playoff. I'm going to say Alabama gets knocked out of the college football playoff. I'll be honest with you. I am going to take LSU to win that game at home. Right now, they're favoring Alabama 2.5 right now. I'm going to take LSU to win that game. It's going to be a good one, I think. It's going to be a high-flying shootout there. But I think LSU is going to win that game there. So I like LSU. Let's see here. Any other big games? Penn State, Washington. That could be a good game. Will Rogers has played well for Washington there. I could see a good game out of Washington, maybe travel to Penn State, find a way to keep it close. Right now, Penn State, they're giving them 13. So, I mean, they're not liking Washington's odds. I don't think they're going to pull off the upset, but I'm going to call a close game. I'm going to call a close game between those 2 teams. Boise State tries to move an 8-1. They're taking on Nevada. That'll be a late game. Usually they play the early game, so interested to see them. Oh, no, Friday night games. I've seen a lot of Boise State games on Friday nights. So, that's something to keep an eye on is what Boise State does. I know a lot of college football playoff predictions I saw had them sitting in that playoff picture already. They're the 12 seed at the moment. According to the college football playoff rankings, they have them as the 12 seed right now. Oregon as the 1, Ohio State as the 2, Penn State's in there as the 6 right now. Indiana as the 8. I love that. That's interesting. I mean, to see Indiana, up there near the top, you got to love that. Singletti's done great. That's a great football team at this point. Indiana, it's both sides of the ball for Indiana. It's not just offensive, it's defensively too. That is a great, well-coached team in Indiana right now. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they can do to finish out this season here, maybe get into a college football playoff. The biggest game for them will be that game against Ohio State, right? That's how good is this program really, right? Because I think they're good, right? Don't get me wrong. I think Indiana has a great football team. But if you beat Ohio State, that puts you on a different level, right? That puts you, if you have that team, you're talking about Indiana in the top 5 then in the AP poll. You're talking about them top 5 in the college football playoff at that point. You're talking about them probably as, the Big Ten representative of, right now being the number 2 where Ohio State is. So there's a lot on that game too, because, and I mean, that's Big Ten championship right there too, right? If Ohio State loses again, you're going to see Oregon and Indiana in that college football or in that Big Ten championship, as long as everything works out behind that there, and Indiana keeps winning, and Ohio State pulls off a couple more wins there, you're going to see, or not Ohio State, but Oregon wins out their schedule. You're going to see those two face off in that Big Ten championship. So a lot of interesting stuff there happening, around college football. So good weekend of college football, no Badgers, but still some good games. I'm glad. I'll be honest with you. I sit there and I worry about this Badger team so much and when they're playing and what I got to watch, and it's okay to have bye week. It's okay to have bye week there. So let's get into a little bit of Packer talk here. Let's get into a little bit of Packer talk. They're on the bye. They're on the bye this week. I was just looking through. I got the PFF, right? Pro Football Focus, the grading system that they have now. And, so they basically go through individual teams, players, everything like that. And they'll give their grades out, performance-wise, right? 90, the grading scale, when you're at a 90, you're elite. When you're at an 80, you're good. 70's above average. 60's average. When you get down to like 50, you're below average. You're poor when you get to 40, and you suck when you get to 30, right? So there's your grading scale for teams right now. So I looked at all the Packers grades on the season so far to this bye week, right? Because the bye week is usually where you check in on some of this stuff. You want to see where team right now. You're talking about a team, they're sitting in week 10 right now of the NFL season. So it'll be week 11 when the Packers pick up next week there. So you're getting close to that midway point. So this is a good time to check in where this Packer team's at. So I'm looking at the Packers defensively right now for the Packers. And this is one of their bigger problems areas, right? This Packer team right now in tackling, which tackling seems like a pretty straightforward thing. I don't have to explain that one. Tackling right now, they're ranked 17th. So that's making tackles, making open field tackles, everything like that. They're ranked 17th in football right now. 51% or 51 is their grade right now. I took their comparisons, right? Because I wanted to see where all these guys sat in comparison to the Vikings and the Lions and the Bears, to see where they were sitting, NFC North-wise. So the Vikings, they're ranked 7th right now. They're at 62. The Lions are 9th at 60.6. And then you see the Bears in 3rd there at 69 right now is their grade on tackling. So that puts you in a comparison right now. The Packers definitely, they struggle. It seems like such a simple area of the game, but they struggle in there. They definitely struggle in there. So that's something that I was looking at. Run defense right now, the Packers are graded at 23rd. In all football, according to Pro Football Focus. That is 58 right now on the scale. So you're talking about them. They're just about average right now in run defense. Put them in comparison. The Bears, they're at 17th. The Vikings are 3rd. And then you have the Lions at 14th right now in all football. So there's in comparison right now, where the Packers are sitting in compared to some of the other NFC North teams. Total defense, 18th. Lions are 1st. Bears are 8th. And then you see the Vikings come in at 12th. So that's where the Packers sit right now in total defense. Pass rush. Pass rush is a big one, right? You don't win. You're not winning a championship with a terrible pass rush. End of the day, you're not winning it, right? And I look at this Packers team, 24th in pass rush right now. Lions are 3rd. Bears are 11th. Vikings are 27th. I thought that was interesting to see that the Vikings were graded at 27th right now in all football. Interesting one there. But I see some of the grades of some of these guys. So I pulled up the separate grades of some of these guys on the Packers team too. Gary's graded at a 61 right now in pass rush. So that is about average. Eggenbar, 60. Van Ness, 53. Devontae Wyatt, 61. Clark's at 59 right now. So those are some of your bigger guys on your defense and where they sit right now. So all about in that average range, right? They're all about average, below average. They're sitting in that range. So right now, lack of a dynamite pass rusher is your biggest weakness at this point if you are the defense. That front, getting pressure on a quarterback. They find ways, right, at times, right? But, right now, consistent pressure is a problem. Coverage, they're ranked 9th. So you have a pretty good secondary back there. Lions are ranked 2nd. Bears are 7th. And the Vikings are 15th right now. So, you look at some of the individuals right now. So we have Carl Brooks. He's right now, his overall defensive grade, 61. Run defense, 37. Pass rush, he's 59. And then, not bad. Not bad there. You see Devontae Wyatt, 58 in total defense. Run defense, he's graded at a 53. And then pass rush, 61. Kenny Clark right now, total defense 50. He's at 50 in run defense, and he's at 59 in pass rush. And then you see TJ Slayton there, 42 in total defense. He's 44 in run defense, and right now in pass rush, he's 58. So that's put kind of in comparison with some of these guys where they're sitting at this very moment. And then you look at some of the edge guys, right? Rashawn Gary, Egebar, and Van Ness. Rashawn Gary right now, total defense 66. His run defense is at 68. His pass rush 61. Not terrible, right? You're not terrible, but not what, a lot of Packer fans want to see out of Rashawn Gary. Now, I did hear, I think they were talking to the guy who works with him all the time there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But, you put in a comparison the lack of guys around him, and you're talking double teams then, you're talking chips, you're talking everything in there. So, they're kind of contributing some of his lack of production to, some of the intangibles in there right now. So I know a lot of people are looking at Rashawn Gary, looking for more pressure. Hopefully we see that as this season goes on here. Egenbar right now, total defense 65. His run defense is graded at 68, and his pass rush is at 60 right now. And then Lucas Van Ness, total defense 47. His run defense is at 50, and his pass rush currently is at 53 on the grading scale there, according to PFF. So you go through all these guys, and it's like, you look at that pass rush. You're constantly looking at that pass rush, and you're saying, man, that's a low grade. That's a low grade. That's a low grade. And it's just constant with this Packers team. So finding somebody, that's something in the bye week where they're looking at and they're saying, we just moved on from Preston Smith. He didn't feel like he fit into this 4-3. He's like, the old system fit me better. We're in this new system now. I don't fit. I'm looking for a trade. Trade me out of here. So the Packers ended up trading him out for that late round pick there from the Steelers. Good for Preston Smith. The Packers didn't really do him dirty. They traded him to another division leading team right now in the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Preston Smith, he gets into a defensive system where he feels like he can contribute better, right? He didn't think he was going to contribute with the Packers. And it showed in his stats. He wasn't built for this system that Hafley's trying to run. So he did. I don't know how to say what he did, but he got out. He asked for a trade because he's like, I'm not contributing to what you guys are trying to do here. So not a bad move there. I didn't think it was a bad move by the Packers. I really did think when they made that move for Preston Smith, when they traded him out, I thought that they were going to maybe, pursue a pass rusher after that. It didn't come to fold, right? Now you're looking on waivers and you're like, okay, well, who do they grab off of waivers, right? I saw, I believe it was a defensive lineman from the Ravens was released there. And, everybody was talking about maybe we'll go out and get him there. Well, we'll see, right? Right now, it seems like with that move, they're putting a lot of their faith into Lucas Van Ness, Egenbar to do some things, maybe Aaron Mosby to do some things in that pass rush department. We're looking for things like that. So hopefully, right, we see Lucas Van Ness and some of them guys take that step forward, and that loss of Preston Smith isn't big on this Packers team. Looking at the linebackers, this is one that the pass rush looks good for two of these guys. And then outside of that, you look at the numbers for two of these guys versus the other two, and you're like, okay, who are my starters in this system here? So the linebacker grades right now, according to PFF, Eric Wilson right now, his total defense, he's graded at a 78 at the moment. Run defense, 70. Pass rush, 78. So you're talking about a guy who is above average in two statistical categories on there. And in coverage, he's graded at a 75. You look at a guy like Edgerrin Cooper, who has been fantastic so far for the Green Bay Packers. Great draft pick, fantastic so far. Total defense, he's graded at 69. Run defense, he's graded in at a 57 right now. Pass rush, 90 on the season. And then in coverage, he's 67. That screams a guy who deserves the most playing time out of any of these guys. That screams to me, we need to see more out of Edgerrin Cooper. We do. 100%. I don't know if anybody else thinks that. But for me, Edgerrin Cooper, he's like a bull in a china shop, and you just can't stop him, right? I just love what I see at Edgerrin Cooper. So for me, That's a guy who deserves a lot more snaps. Isaiah McDuffie right now, he's graded at a 57 overall, 61 on run defense. Pass rush, he's graded at 53 right now, coverage 54. And then Quay Walker, 47 in total defense. Right now, run defense, he's graded at a 56, pass rush 62, and then coverage 42. So you look at all the numbers there for the linebacker core. Quay Walker, he's got to take that next step pretty soon here. He has to take that next step because otherwise he's taking snaps away from guys who I believe, in my opinion, could provide better for this Packers defense, like a guy like Eric Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper for sure. I'm not closing the book on what Quay Walker can do for this Packers team. Not by any way, shape, or form am I trying to close this book down and say, like, Quay Walker's a bust. I'm not trying to say anything like that. But what I'm saying is right now, the way that the way everything's kind of lining up for me, I got to see more. I got to see more of Edgerrin Cooper than anybody else. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Safety room, I mean, Xavier McKinney has been a dog. We all know that. He's graded in an 89 in coverage. 89 in coverage. That is, I mean, awesome. That is awesome. And then we see in total defense, he's at 89, run defense 71, and then pass rush 77. I mean, there was a play early on this, I believe it was against the Texans, when he came on that safety blitz and just, I mean, completely just took out C.J. Stroud. Like, that was a great play call. Great job by Xavier McKinney there. Evan Williams is graded in, I mean, fantastic too. 80 in coverage. Total defense, he's at an 87. Run defense, he's at an 81. Evan Williams is phenomenal. Phenomenal. From what I've seen so far. Both of them right now, rankings among safeties, Xavier McKinney's at 3, and then you see Evan Williams at 4. That is awesome out of those two guys. So you love to see that. And then Javian Bullard, currently, he's at 54 in total defense right now. Lack of snaps and their lack of getting in a lot. I mean, that's kind of where you contribute that to there. But Javian Bullard is a little bit more of a work in progress. Evan Williams has been a star in the making. Like, you love what you're seeing in Evan Williams right now. So great stuff there. That's the Packers defense for you. Looking over at the offensive side, right now, total offense, they're graded at 17th. They're 17th in all of football. That is in comparison to like the Lions, who are 4th, Vikings, who are 6th, and the Bears, who are 27th right now. So, I mean, offensively, Packers, about middle of the pack right now. You're talking about a Packers team who you haven't had Jordan Love out there for an extended period of time. You've been missing pieces, right? So getting back in there, getting healthy, and that's the biggest thing for the Green Bay Packers. Total, I mean, in passing right now, they're graded in at 14th. That's in comparison to the Vikings at 12th, Lions at 19th, Bears at 27th. Pass blocking, they're first. Pass blocking, they're first in all football right now. Zach Tom grades in at an 81 in pass blocking right now. Rasheed Walker, he's at an 80. Sean Ryan's at 67. Josh Myers, 77. We see Jenkins in there at 83, and then Jordan Morgan at 61. So pass blocking has been, I mean, the offensive line has held up well in the pass blocking department right now. The run blocking, 28th right now. Zach Tom at 84. Rasheed Walker grades in at a 45 right now. And then we see guys like Sean Ryan and Jenkins both in the 50 range there, along with Jordan Morgan, and Josh Myers at 43. So run blocking has been troublesome for the Green Bay Packers. And that's like an anomaly because, just like I was talking about on the defensive side with the lack of pass rush, they struggle to get to the quarterback. Yet you look at guys like, they struggle to get the quarterback, yet they still turn teams over, right? They top of the league in turnovers, right? Of turning teams over. So it's just a weird stat to look at. They struggle to get to the quarterback, yet they make turnovers. Then you look at the opposite side of it. They struggle in run blocking, yet Josh Jacobs is still having a good year. And then people will still say Josh Jacobs is not having a good year. So I don't understand that, right? I saw an ESPN post saying Josh Jacobs is on like some kind of downswing. And I'm like, what stats are you looking at right now? Like, what are you looking at right now to tell me Josh Jacobs isn't playing very well? Because I think that dude's playing well. So you got to love what you're seeing out of them there. But, I mean, it's something that they got to clean up, right? Total run right now, they're ranked 4. Grades for pass routes, 23 so far in the season there. I mean, just some little tidbit numbers there. But the biggest thing, you're heading into this bye week. The biggest thing I'm looking at the Green Bay Packers and I'm saying to myself is you got to clean up the drops. And you got to clean up the pre-snap penalties, right? I mean, you look at this team, Packers have the 4th most drops at 20 on the season so far, 20 drops on the season. And then you look at, 2nd most pre-snap penalties at 30. 30 pre-snap penalties. This Packers team, everybody out there is like, they're not that good. They're not that good. They're 6-3, but they're not that good of a football team. This is a good football team. This is a very good football team. They haven't played to be a good football team yet, right? They've had all these kinds of problems, pre-snap penalties, injuries. You look at drop passes. They've had all these problems, and yet they're 6-3, right? You clean up half of the pre-snap penalties. You clean up half the drops, and you just clean up the simple things leading into games. Where does this Packers team sit then, right? Because right now I look at the NFC. And I say to myself, okay, the Lions are no doubt the number one team in the NFC. No doubt. No doubt. They're the one team that you could put up against Kansas City Chiefs right now, and you would say they have a good shot of winning that game. But this Packers team is not that far behind them. As much as you look at that game they just played, and the Lions won that game, but the Packers beat themselves, right? I'm not going to say that. Coming out of that game, I did not say that the Lions beat the Packers. I said the Lions did the things that the Packers hurt themselves doing, right? The pre-snap penalties, the drop passes. And yes, you have the excuse of, oh, well, it was wet, right? It was raining. The ball was wet, okay? Why did the Lions have no trouble? Why did they have no trouble with it? Right? I mean, we see Dontavian Wicks dropping passes. We see a couple passes dropped by Dobbs. Just passes left and right. Kraft drops a couple. I mean, you saw drop passes, right? Lions didn't drop as many. Why is this just a Packers problem, right? This is a problem that stems deeper. This is focus. This is coming to the game focus. This is focus in practice. This is being prepared. This is, situation. This is deeper than a physical thing. Right? This isn't a physical thing, right? Yes, I don't believe that they didn't get manhandled at times in that game, right? I'm not going to say that. But you look at this Packers team, they just beat themselves. They beat themselves out of games. They try. There's a couple games in there that they won that they tried to lose by beating themselves. So a lot of things for this team right now that they got to clean up. They definitely got to clean up moving forward here, coming out of the break, because you're going to have some you have some good games coming up here for the Green Bay Packers. You have that game against the Bears next, which you got to win that game. Come on. We got to win that game. And then you have that game against 49ers, the Dolphins, the Lions, the Seahawks. Then you have the Vikings, the Bears to wrap it up with the Saints mixed in there. You have some very winnable games and some very tough games left on the docket here. So this is kind of, you cannot play a 49ers team and have all these pre-snap penalties, have all these drops, have all these mistakes, and expect to win, right? Just like you saw at the Lions. Just like you saw in that Lions game. You cannot have all these little simple things go wrong. The mental mistakes. You cannot have those mental mistakes so frequently in big games, because you will lose those games, right? In a team like the Seahawks, they'll take advantage of those, right? You set yourself up in bad spots. In a game where it's raining and you have a false start, or, all this other crap happen pre-snap, and now you set yourself up, instead of being 1st and 10 or 2nd and 5, now you get pushed back, right? And now, pre-snap penalty, snap penalty. And now you're sitting there at 2nd and 20, and you're like, okay, it's raining. We can't exactly sling the ball around too well. What are we going to do now, right? You put yourself in these situations where you're 3rd and long, and that hurts. That hurts. And that's where this Packers team is at right now. They're hurting themselves in these games, and it sucks. It really does. But hopefully, right, coming out of this bye week, the mental, just coming prepared and looking like you're prepared in these games is going to get better for them. So we'll see kind of what happens there with the Green Bay Packers coming out of the bye week. But I want to look at the rest of the NFL slate coming up this weekend here. We saw a good game against the Ravens and Bengals last night there. Bengals defense stinks. I don't know who else in the world needs to hear that, but that Bengals, as much as Chris Canty on the radio, I think he's on ESPN, unsportsmanlike in the morning. As much as he likes to sit there and tell us that Joe Burrow is this and Joe Burrow's not playing well enough. Joe Burrow passed for 428 yards and 4 touchdowns, and the Bengals still lost. It's almost like the Bengals have to put up 100. If the Bengals put up 125 points in a game, their defense would give up 126. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. This Bengals defense stinks. So, bad. That was a bad defensive showing by the Bengals there, but the Ravens put it out there late and put up 21 points late in this one, and the Bengals fall in that game. We're going to see, this is going to be a barn burner. Start us out on Sunday. We're going to see the Giants and the Panthers Oh, those poor people over there in Germany. You know, they got to watch two of the NFL's best, I guess you would say, the Giants and the Panthers squaring off there. Give me the Panthers. I'm gonna take the Panthers to win that game. It's gonna be a stupid game. It's gonna suck, but I'm gonna take the Panthers to win that game in the early one. Then we see the Patriots and the Bears. The Bears are favored by 6. I think it's gonna be closer than 6. I think that team is lost. Give me the Patriots. Give me the Patriots to pull off an upset. Just because. Just because. The Bears are lost. DJ Moore's walking up the field mid-play. You got Stevenson yelling in the crowd, you know, during a Hail Mary. That Bears team is lost. He lost the locker room. It's just done. I feel like this is a game where the Bears fall apart and they fire Eberflus. Like, I just think that's this game. So I'm going to take the Patriots. Colts and Bills. I think the Bills will win that game against the Colts, favored by 4. It's in Indianapolis. I think it's going to be close, but I like the Bills coming out of there. Broncos and Chiefs, that could be a good game. That could be a good game there. Broncos might be able to hang around for a little bit in Kansas City. I'm going to take the Chiefs in that one. Falcons and Saints, let's go Falcons. Let's go Falcons in that one. I like the Falcons. 49ers and Buccaneers. Give me the Buccaneers in Tampa. Give me the Buccaneers to win that game. That's a good football team. That's good football. They don't have the stars right now with Godwin and Evans out, but I like that football team. Plus, I got Chris Otton on my fantasy team there. So give me the Buccaneers. Steelers, Commanders. I think the Commanders are going to win that game. It's in Landover. Yeah, give me the Commanders. Commanders will win that game there. Vikings and Jaguars. Vikings will win that one in Jacksonville. I think it's going to be close, though. Give me 3. They're giving the Vikings 6.5. I think the spread will be like 3. I got it at 3. Titans and Chargers. I'm going to take the Chargers in that one to win that one. That's going to be at SoFi. So give me the Chargers. Eagles, Cowboys. It's in Arlington. No Dak Prescott. Eagles win that game. Jets and Cardinals. They're favoring the Jets. It's a storyline. Give me the Jets. Give me the Jets just to keep that storyline going, right? Aaron Rodgers run the table. That's all we got to see. Lions, Texans. I think that's going to be a good game. They're giving the Lions 3.5 right now. I think the Texans will hang around a little bit. It's at NRG. I think Nico Collins is playing in that game. Give me the Lions, but it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be about 3. And then the Dolphins and Rams. I like the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams. The Rams are a resurgence right now with all them guys back, Puka Nacua and Kupp and company. I like the Rams to win that game against the Dolphins there. So good weekend of NFL games. I mean, there's good weekend of college football games, good weekend of NFL games. Should be a good weekend all the way around there. Bucks did end up losing to the Knicks. Man, just when you think the Bucks got something figured out, all of a sudden, I mean, they look like crap again. I don't know what to say. This Bucks team is a struggle. They are a struggle bus. Like I was just coming out of that game against the Jazz yesterday, and I was like, wow, you know, they have some pieces. AJ Green, I think we got to see more out of AJ Green. I like when Ajax is in there, but I look at this Bucks team, and outside of Damon Giannis, there ain't nothing. There ain't nothing right now. AJ Green's gonna spring you some threes, like he's playing well. Ajax is playing well, but Taurean Prince ain't scoring. Gary Trent ain't scoring. Brooke Lopez has struggled. Like, this is just a team that, outside of Damon Giannis, they're lost. They are a lost team right now. And, man, I mean, I heard, I can't remember who the heck was talking about it there, but they said the Bucks called everybody looking for a trade partner. They called everybody. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they find a trade partner. I heard that they're already over the luxury tax and everything like that, so the trade seems unlikely, but we'll see what happens with the Bucks there. So with that, I mean, that's about all I got for today. We got a good weekend of sports coming up here. College football should be a good weekend there. NFL, we got a big weekend of NFL coming up here. Packers, Badgers, got a bye week coming up this weekend, but they'll be back in action next week, so we got lots to get into. Sunday, we'll be back here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Kick TV. We'll be back here across all platforms there. Aaron should be back. We're going to recap this weekend of sports. We're going to look ahead to the next week there. Should be a great weekend there of sports all the way around. So with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trades. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great night and weekend. But until I talk to you guys again on Sunday, see ya.